Yeah, I think the defensive tree that we've all kind of grown under and learned. It's a little different in each and every way. It has its foundation, but I think just like a foundation, if you're thinking about it, kind of like the branch of a tree. The branches kind of grow out, and you kind of have different things that you've done over the years, and you've kind of put together that you like. But certainly, coach with his history and how great of a defensive mind he is, we'll come together on that and really develop the best system that we can. But there'll be some similarities to what we've done. There'll be some differences. But at the end of the day, it'll come down to how we execute. It's not going to matter what the call is. At the end of the day, it's how we do it. And that'll be the biggest thing for us as a defense.
When you were coming over here and you kind of looked at the personalities that were going to be inherited, what kind of stood out about that group, especially some of the younger guys?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I always look for, and we always look for as a staff, is just they love football. And if you have players that love football, you'll be all right. And you'll fit the scheme to your players. And that's the biggest thing for our staff. We have a bunch of new coaches. Just finding out what we can do, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and what we have to kind of to get better at. And then ultimately develop that over the next, however many months it is until September. But we're gonna love where our feet are, live where our feet are, and we're gonna take it one step at a time.
Joe, you're pretty well known as a good recruiter. I just want to talk a little bit about your recruiting philosophy. What are some things you kind of look for in guys? And then you being a Jersey guy, how easy is it to sell on a Jersey program now?
Yeah, I think, again, identifying guys that love ball. I think in this day and age of social media and how much that involves in recruiting, sometimes that get lost. It's just how much an individual loves football. And, we talk about family, forget about me, I love you, the sacrifice that it takes to put someone else's needs before yours. That's what we want in recruiting. And if we can identify guys that love to do that, we'll play good defense. But we got to find the people that want to do that. Coach gave an analogy today about guys that go fishing, guys that want to catch the biggest fish, and guys that just love the fish. We want guys that love to play football. And if we get guys that love to play football, we'll be fine.
Facing a lot of experience in production at linebacker from last season's team. How do you kind of feel about that unit right now? Where they are?
Yeah, again, I think just in the early evaluation process, they care a lot. And that's really, really good for us. And that's really, really good for us moving forward. But there's some talent there. There's a lot of talent. And, working through these first three practices, there's stuff that looks really, really good. And there's stuff that we got to get better at. But that's anything. But we just got to sharpen our tools, But I'm really impressed with how they go about their day, how they go about their business. I mean, Coach Heatherman's done a great job already in developing them. And those guys that are helping in there, Coach Noonan, I mean, it's going to be a good crew to see develop. And that's the biggest thing, right? We just got to take one step at a time. We can't think about Boston College. We can't think about anything else. We can't even think about tomorrow. Just be where we are, love where we are, and get better each day.
Can you talk a little bit more about your relationship with Heatherman? I know obviously you two work together going back to Springfield.
Yeah, so actually I was a senior when Corey was running the scout team. So I used to break his, a little bit when I was a senior and he was running the scout team. But we go way back, and then when I became the defensive coordinator at Maine back in the mid-2000s, we hired Corey as the D-line coach. He's always been a great coach, but first and foremost, he's a great person. So it goes back to, you asked about recruiting and loving football. I mean, Corey loves football. He's a football guy, and, once we got together at Maine, and then when I became the head coach, he was the defensive coordinator, and he certainly went on to JMU. I went on to Minnesota. He had great success there, and now we bring it back together, and ultimately it's good just to be around him again.
What's it been like coming back to Jersey and kind of, obviously what's this whole thing?
Yeah, it's wherever home is for you, no one can never take that away from you. So for me getting back, certainly the family aspect is huge. My whole immediate family's around. My wife is from Connecticut, so her immediate family's around, and just for my two daughters, getting back around the family and being able to do things that we haven't been able to do for a really long time, at least since they've been alive for sure. But for us, it's been since 2010. We've been outside of this area really, besides Maine. So that's good. And then I'm getting crushed with food. I've missed the food. I'm telling you, man, the food's been the number one thing I've missed. So I got to be careful with that.
Time for two more. Along the lines of defensive line, it's a group that's really kind of quietly come together the past few years. How important is that to build your new defense, knowing you have those guys up front?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It all starts there. I mean, this is the Big Ten. It's not the Little Ten. I was joking with the guys the other day. about that. So I'm really impressed. Coach Watson can get those guys going, get them ramped up, and then that's got to be our strong suit. We have to stop the run. We have to, and that'll set up everything else. And I know that's very cliche to say, but whenever there's been great defenses and great defenses that have played, you stop the run first, and we have to be able to do that in the Big Ten because that's what's going to set up everything for us, get people in third and manageable situations for us, and that kind of really opens it up. But that crew, I mean, there's some dudes there. And I'm really excited about that being the strong part of our defense moving forward and developing everybody else and developing them at the same time. But it's got to start up front for sure.
Kind of along that line too. I mean, what was the biggest thing that you learned at Minnesota about being a Big Ten defensive coordinator and what it takes to kind of limit some of these offenses that you're going to be going up against?
Yeah, I think first and foremost you have to have a system, and it's got to be a system that the players and the staff understands, because that leads to success. When you try and do too many things, or you try and game plan every little thing, I think when it gets to that point, I think that's where you get a little bit of confusion and stuff goes. And we have to live to who we are, whatever that becomes over this evaluation this spring, this summer, and where we can put our guys in the best situation to be successful, because that's our number one job. Is on Saturdays, these guys go out there prepared, they can swarm, they can tackle, and they can get the ball. And that's kind of our method to play great defense. So if we're able to do that and put them in those situations, we should have a great shot at being successful.